can't ask the woman to do a man's job. That's how you pull her out of the feminine. If I'm expecting her to go first, I'm expecting her to be the man. A man has to go first every single time.
Today in studio, we've got Mr. Jake Hamilton. Jake Hamilton is the founder and face behind The Fight, a movement and platform dedicated to reclaiming masculinity through emotional health, relational depth, and spiritual integrity.
So I actually was gonna go work for Disney. I'm an artist. I left kind of all of it behind. In the midst of that, I'm like, my life, I need to get this together.
What were some of the obstacles that you hit along the way that you felt called to make this your mission and purpose?
We were helping a lot of marriages is where it started. We were working with marriages. We were sharing a lot because we're super open books. So no transformation will ever come to a marriage if you don't have the man's heart. A certain percentage of marriages, high percentage of marriages, will course correct eventually if the man simply decides not to leave.
But your job as a man is to weather that storm.
But a man, here's the suckiest part about being born with a penis, okay? Here's the deal. You legitimately have to give her.
Today in studio, we've got Mr. Jake Hamilton. Jake is the founder and face behind The Fight, a movement and platform dedicated to reclaiming masculinity through emotional health, relational depth, and spiritual integrity. Jake's journey wasn't one of instant clarity. Publicly, he describes being a functioning man on the outside while feeling disconnected. Struggle-laden and hidden by shame, he built The Fight as a space where men don't have to fight alone. A community, a course, a platform, and a place to walk through spiritual, emotional, mental, and relational transformation. Jake also co-hosts the Fight podcast with his spouse, Nicci, exploring themes of marriage, identity, faith, and the complexities between masculinity and relational wholeness. Welcome to the show, Jake. How are you, brother?
I'm really glad to be here.
I just got to take a moment to explain how Jake and I met. First of all, Jake is on an extended layover with his wife, Nicci, before they fly down to the Caribbean, which I thought was the coolest because they're coming all the way from California, and this is their first time in the Bronx, so we brought them to the thick of it.
I feel like I finally made it.
And I told them, luckily, well, we wouldn't even been shooting this podcast in the Bronx 15 years ago. We would have found someplace safer. So I told her they were very fortunate in that. Not only did they come to the Bronx, but they got to come to the heart of it all in the South Bronx.
Come on.
Hopefully you'll pass through Yankee Stadium, at least get to see that on the way out. But again, brother, thank you to the show. We met in Atlanta at Ken Jocelyn's event.
Yeah.
And boy, there were some great speakers. There were some great stories. But I got to say, the guy who stole the show for me was you. The passion, the energy, because Jake was our worship leader and musician for that event. So anytime there was a break and people were going to get food or, Jake would just kind of keep the atmosphere alive, brother. How long has music been part of your life?
Well, the short version is I was singing since I was little. I think I have my mom has a picture of me like singing into a hose just in my my diapers. So I've been singing for a long time and I didn't pick up a guitar until I was 18. So I actually was going to go work for Disney. I already interviewed with Disney. I'm an artist. My first business was out of my parents' garage at 15 doing large scale murals for businesses and schools and all sorts of stuff. And I left kind of all of it behind when I ended up back in church through, a whole other story. But I ended up back in sort of church land. And in the midst of that, I'm like, my life, I need to get this together. And so a guy hit me up and he's like, hey man, you want to go work at a camp for inner city kids, like Compton, Long Beach, LA, with, the Salvation Army. And he's like, it's like in Malibu Canyon, like Calabasas area, they own a bunch of land and they pay you $1,500 a month and free room and board. So I bought a $50 guitar, left the Disney stuff behind, left behind everything I started and kind of just jumped over here. And I was working with inner city kids for 2 years and playing guitar every night, trying to learn chords. Right. But 2 weeks into this camp, 2 weeks in, the worship leader, the musician, the whole thing leaves in the middle of the night and leaves a note. This place sucks. I went home. And so they're like, all right, cool. Like as if this had never happened before. They're like, okay, awesome. Okay, so who's going to take over? And I'm like, this is going to be really interesting. Okay, wild. They're like, well, Jake's loud and he has a guitar. And they're like, Jake, you're the new worship leader. Congratulations. So I knew 2 chords really poorly. I owned the guitar for 2 weeks, dude. And didn't know him well. I don't know if you've played any instrument, but at first your brain doesn't connect to your fingers.
Right.
So you're always like, Like your mouth is doing weird.
You're overthinking it because there's no muscle memory
and I knew
yet.
G and D and not very well. And so I always say my songwriting career began by like making shit up in front of 300 kids. And that's literally how it began. I would get up there and I'd just start banging on the chords that I knew. And I'd try to find lyrics that fit this space. And that is literally how it began. My songwriting,
How old were you at this time?
18.
18.
Yeah.
So you grew up in Cali, you said LA area.
Yep.
Where did that creativity come from? Where that natural inclination for, I guess, people also? Because it's hard to just pick up somebody says, hey, you're in charge because you're loud and you play the guitar. And you're like, yeah, screw it. Let's do it.
Let's go. Game on.
Most people would have been like, no, not me. Who gave you your outgoing personality? Or where did you get it from?
That is like, my dad's a character, man. So my dad is a storyteller. He is a character, and he grew up a tradesman. He wanted to be, this is the crazy part, thinking about when he grew up, he wanted to do interior design and be a motivational speaker. Yeah, go for it, you know? But his dad was like, hell no, no kid of mine. I grew up in a trade. He was a serial entrepreneur, my grandpa was. I'm actually wearing his belt buckle right now. He rode bareback, horses in the rodeo, the whole deal. Just a wild man. And he's like, no, you're gonna be an electrician. That's what you're doing. We're tradesmen. You're gonna make this happen. So my dad went into the trade. His whole life wanting to be a speaker and wanting to be an artist. And my grandpa on the other side was a quartet singer, barbershop quartet singer, and he was an artist. And so it kind of skipped a generation and then just landed on me.
Did it skip it, or he was just kind of muscled out of it by grandpa?
And the cool part is like he's an incredible storyteller. I mean, like, he'll tell you the same story 20 times, but it'll be like the first time you heard it every time. And I love it. He's still telling stories to this day. He's now made a career of it. He actually...
Nicci's here. Nicci, do you agree?
Yeah. Oh, he's going to tell the same...
That's what they tell us too when we repeat our fucking stories.
The best stories are, dude, is I'm now doing it. I'm like, oh shit, I told this story before. I've told this. I look at my friends and I'm like...
My disclaimer, you're holding your face pretty good. Thanks for not blowing it.
Dude,
I always say, hey, if I said the story before, just stop me.
Yeah,
because you never know where. And
totally.
The life of being with a talker. So your wife's here, and we're going to have her on in a
keep
minute.
me honest. That's for dang sure.
And boy, my wife looks at me one day after a dinner. We went out with like a new couple and we're friends. And she just looks at me, she goes, boy, you can talk. And I was just like...
every time, dude, I literally look over at Nicci, I'm like, I talk too much. She's like, that's what I thought about me. And so we're both just totally guilty. And like, did those people have anything to say?
Maybe, but who cares? No.
I was like, we did not do well.
I told my wife, that's why you're such a great listener.
Yeah.
So I can talk to you and vice versa.
Dude.
You're a woman of few words, but when you do talk, I listen.
That is for darn sure.
And she gets my attention. And let's bring that subject, I guess, to that. Because I was really blown away by, first, your mission with men.
Yeah.
Where does that come from? You just mentioned your father. So there wasn't a lack of a male role model. But what were some of the obstacles that you hit along the way that you felt called to make this your mission and purpose?
Well, it was really weird. I mean, I was like, I'm late 30s and I was, trying to figure out what I was going to do. We're kind of changing careers and things are switching for us. And our marriage had gone through some stuff. So we like got back on track and we're like, okay, because I was a workaholic. And so that kind of blew up our marriage. Because if you're a workaholic in the church, everybody high fives you instead of holding you accountable. So that wasn't very helpful. They're like, oh, you're working really hard. You're so epic. Look how much you're serving, how great you are.
Right.
And I was like, actually, my marriage is falling apart. Thank you for not asking. That wasn't very helpful. And so, but when we did come in like, okay, we figured this out. We got kind of a rhythm going. We were helping a lot of marriages is where it started. We were working with marriages. We were sharing a lot because we're super open books. So we'll just tell the whole story. We're like, here's our lives, everything we're thinking. So I would go and play music at churches and do that. And behind the scenes, we would go, and they would go, you walk into a room, hey, how are you doing? It's so good to see you guys. So glad you brought the family. Awesome. Right. Tell us about what's happening in your life. Oh, dude, well, she was going to leave me. Like, I'm glad our marriage even survived. She still might be leaving. I'm not really sure. We're still figuring things out, And
no filter.
Yeah, none. We don't have any filter. And so everyone's like, cool, man.
They don't know what to do with that information.
Right. But then later, every time behind the scenes, kid you not, every time, they'd be like, hey, can we talk to you guys later? And we would start having some real conversations with people where it was like our authenticity and vulnerability allowed them to have access to the things that were broken in their own story. And long story short, we realized very quickly, very, very quickly, and then we had some good mentors around us as well, discussing this with them, but you will never transform a marriage unless you have the man's heart. And that was it. I was like, no transformation will ever come to a marriage if you don't have the man's heart. And so when I realized—
What do you mean by that?
What I mean is, and the research has been done. I mean, the crazy part is Newsweek did, magazine did an article, it must have been 10 years ago, 15 years ago now, I still have it at the house, but they did a whole article on divorce and remarriage and all this stuff. Just very much here's the research, here's the stories, here's what we've learned. And the very end of the entire article literally said that, a certain percentage, I won't exaggerate, so a certain percentage of marriages, high percentage of marriages, will course correct eventually if the man simply decides not to leave, which is huge. It doesn't say therapy, it doesn't say work, it doesn't say coaching, it doesn't say any of that shit. It just literally says, if a man plants his feet and decides, come hell or high water, I'm choosing you for the rest of my life. Even if it's my fault that this whole thing is screwed up, I'm coming after you. Like, I'm gonna chase you down for the rest of your life. You're my wife, and that's it. A man decides that, marriage will eventually course correct. I can't give you a timeline. I can't tell you months or years, but I can tell you eventually it'll work out.
I got the biggest smile on my face because, as we discussed off camera, I just had that revelation the other day. My wife mentioned, you saved me. And I mentioned back to her, I said, you saved me too. And it's like, it's real love. And it's crazy because that hits home. Like, with all the problems are always going to be there. The obstacles are going to be there. The kids are going to drive you up the fucking wall because that's their job.
That's their job.
But your job as a man is to weather that storm.
That's right.
And our women are going to follow our lead. And we're talking, let's clear it up too. Let's get out of the weeds. We're talking traditional male-led relationships, which people would now consider old school. And I heard something beautiful the other day, which said, 50-50 relationships don't work.
Nope.
And the reason they don't work is because it will never allow for the woman to drop into her feminine.
That's right.
Because she does not feel safe.
That's right.
So you've got to take, even if it's 55-45, which is extremely graceful.
Yeah.
If the shit hits the fan, physical altercation, financial troubles, whatever, the man is called to lead.
Well, and we always say it in our work, like, a man has to go first. So you can't ask the woman to do a man's job. Like, that's how you pull her out of the feminine. If I'm expecting you to go first, if I'm expecting her to go first, I'm expecting her to be the man. A man has to go first every single time. A man goes in front, he takes the bullet, he takes charge, he leads. And because a man and a woman, they're each only looking for two things. We are very simple creatures. Like,
extremely.
We need two things. A woman wants security and stability. Now, everything a woman wants, they're going to give me a list. Jake, no, that's not true. I want this. I promise you it will funnel down to security and stability. Yep. That's what a woman's looking for. What a man wants is desire and respect. Mm-hmm. Every man wants desire and respect. You can put sex in that category, wealth in that category, position in that category.
But they will all boil down to those two.
Boil down to desire and respect. And those two things, but a man, here's the suckiest part about being born with a penis, okay? Here's the deal. You legitimately have to give her security and stability before you get desire and respect. But the degree to which you will sacrifice your desire and respect for security and stability, that will exponentially show up in how much desire and respect you earn.
That is awesome. And I've seen it in my own marriage, just not having come from a strong foundation of what manhood looks like. I figured it out on my own. And there's some days where I just don't fucking feel like leading. So I leave it to her to make a decision.
That's right.
And that's like that's like asking, and any guys who are in a relationship, no, you never ask your lady where she wants to go for dinner. You just pick a place and then she'll tell you, no, we're not going there.
Yeah, that's right.
And then you go down the list until you get to the one you end up at.
Yeah.
And I say that jokingly, but I say that it is expected for the man to lead. At least in my relationship and the majority of healthy relationships that I've seen. So let's say someone doesn't have love as that foundation. The man is on the fence, like so many of us, if our needs are not being met, just like a woman's. There's doubt, and it creeps in, and now it's living with us at all times. If there's love and the decision is made to stay, we can repair. What can someone do to strengthen their resolve or maybe increase their knowledge around the subject if they know they have love and it's worth keeping, but they're honest with themselves, have no fucking clue how to be in a healthy relationship?
That's it, brothers. That was the next part of my journey. I was like, okay, So a man has to go first. We've got to get men who know how to fight for marriages. Great. The marriage will never transform if you don't have men. And then the next question is, what the hell's a man? Like, when did I become a man? At what? Like, we don't have tribal culture anymore. So there's no initiation practices. There's no rites of passage. So if I ask you, when did you become a man? You're going to give me a list of cultural relevancy that probably doesn't mean anything because no one invited you, because initiation was always always being invited into to be called up, not called out. And most men spend their lives being called out instead of being called up. So if we're being called out constantly, no wonder men are soaked in shame and guilt and condemnation. It's not that they don't know how to do it. It's that they feel like shit while they're doing it. And if we can do in a tribe of brothers, call each other up instead of out, we can walk each other through initiatory practices, which basically means this. I'm going to walk you to the place of death. I'm going to walk with you to the place where you think you cannot go any further and you will die. Emotionally, physically, spiritually, I'm going there with you. And I will get nothing out of it except for to be there with you. And I will be the hand that pulls you out the moment you've hit rock bottom. And I will make sure you don't die. Because that's where resurrection is found. That's where redemption is found. That's where reconciliation is found. The reason we're confused, the reason we're lost is we've never been brought to that place of where I'm going to die without being alone. And if we're alone, we will die. We absolutely will. The marriage will die. The friendships will fracture. The job will end. The wealth will disappear. It will all go away. If I don't have a brother by my side, a tribe of men who go, come hell or high water, we're with you. We're in this.
Now, I want to dissect that because I want to, the people we look to for assistance when we're at our worst or when we're at the bottom is the wrong crowd. And you and I know that. But the people in the thick of it think asking their mom or their uncle or the guy from the block or the neighborhood or that's a good idea. Why is that not a good idea to lean on people that there's an established, let's say, love relationship or familial relationship? Why is that not the tribe we gear
there's something we know. Well, we know in tribal cultures that the father and the mother could never initiate a child. Can't be done. A mother loves the child too much to see him in pain. And a dad loves the child too much in order to push him as far as he needs to go to become the man he's supposed to be. Only a tribe could do that. There's no version of this where we don't need wise elders. That brought up the next problem for me. That was problem number 3. First problem, well, we need men who know how to fight for marriage. Well then, okay, how the hell do we become men? Oh crap, I know what we're missing, wise elders. That's what we're missing. Where are the elders in our tribes, in our cultures, in our relationships and friendships where we're looking at their life and we're going, you have what I want. See, that was the inspiration of little boys. The inspiration of little boys in tribe was like, dude, I want to become like that man when I get older.
Still the inspiration for little boys when they have a male role model.
That's exactly right.
I'm seeing it now with my son and my daughter. I can do no wrong. Well, with my daughter, I can do wrong. But with my son, I can do no wrong.
That's right.
There's a different energy. Having a son, and I say this all the time, changed my life because it tapped me into an energy that I was completely unfamiliar with. And it just raised the bar. And then I started to seek out good husbands, good fathers, good family men, good men in general. I'm guessing that wasn't always your story. What was some of the pain that you suffered, or what was the thing that got you to this point where, you were able to be honest with yourself? What was the point where you said, I've had enough and I've got to change?
I was a full-blown workaholic, like my dad and his dad before him, and I just happened to do it in a different way. But I'm in stadiums. I'm playing in front of 20,000, 30,000 people around the world. Okay, I thought I've got this on lock. Not only is it a job, but I'm doing this for God. So I must have this together. And everyone's telling me how amazing I am. But I come home and I'm like, it doesn't feel like I'm amazing. This does not feel good. And then on top of that, we have a daughter who was born with cerebral palsy. So we got problems on top of problems trying to figure this out. And I got no answers and nobody's helping me. So I'm alone. And I end up playing, at that time, it was the largest. It was like 17,000 people in Allstate Arena in Chicago. And so I'm playing on this stage, and I knew like me and my wife weren't doing great at the time. It was like, we're just disconnected. And again, there was no drugs, there was no alcohol, there was nothing going on. There was no porn, there was no adultery, there was none of that. It was like, I was a disconnected man from my family. Like I was completely like, again, most people would be like, you're a good guy.
Right.
But the problem was I was looking for that definition from everyone else, not from the person it mattered the most to. Because when I got married, that became my primary.
Right.
But I didn't know that. I knew my parents stayed together, but I didn't know how to sustain that. I didn't know how to build it. So we ended up at a place where we're sitting across from each other with a mentor, and he looks over and he looks at my wife who didn't have a dad, like didn't grow up with a father. And he was kind of a father figure, looks at her and says, you know, how are you doing? As she just starts sobbing, which my wife does not do, okay? Right. Like in this relationship,
you knew something was wrong.
I'm the crier, okay? And so she starts crying.
I don't feel so bad.
And I'm like, dude, I bawl at the drop of a hat, okay? It's the wrong commercial, I'm crying, okay? Like, let's just be real about how this is going down.
Christmas time is the worst.
It's over, it's fine.
Jerkers.
It is over. And I look at her and I'm like, oh, this is way worse than I thought. We end up in a conversation, save you a lot of time. We end up in a conversation for about 4 hours where, you know, she's saying all the things she needed to say and getting all of it out of her body. Like this is stuff she's been storing for years, you know, like not just with me, but every
Visceral
man that's
reaction,
ever heard her. And I had my own list that I had done. And you know, the mentor and all of his good mentor fashion is like, yeah, you are kind of an asshole. You know, you kind of suck. And you know what I mean? Like you got an ego and you're being selfish and all these things. And I was like, oh my God, I knew he was right. I knew I was doing this for me, in the name of doing it for her, in the name of doing it. And I think so many men are in that pattern. I'm doing this for my family. It's like, no, you're running over your family to do the thing that gives you the most satisfaction. Because if we're honest, being home is not going to give you the same satisfaction in the short term. Now, if we look 30 years in the future, 50 years in the future, that's where the satisfaction is. No man goes to his grave saying, I wish I would have worked more hours. Not one man, okay? Right. And so when that happened, I got my first invitation to manhood, really. She goes to bed because she's like, she feels good. I think we're gonna keep talking after 4 hours because I'm like, this is a train wreck. She's like, I'm not divorcing you, but this ain't a marriage, so good luck. Go travel the world. I don't care anymore. You know, like just, there it is. And I'm sitting in the hallway 2 hours later after she goes to bed, and this guy walks back through the hallway after a couple other meetings, walks back through, and I'm sitting in the hallway, and he's like, you're probably thinking one of two things right now. You're either thinking, give up your calling for the sake of fighting for your family, or give up your family to fight for the sake of what you're called to do. He said, that neither of those questions is correct. A real man finds the tension of living in both at the same time.
Wow, this is therapy for me because, you know, we had this conversation as to exactly how I felt in my marriage after 17 years of being together and 12 married. That's still tugging because the certainty's not there.
That's it. That's it. We're looking for a level of certainty. I believe, and what we try to train men into with the work we do is go, I want to get you to a place where you can embrace the tension of life and know that it's not failure. It's actually the measure of your success. Because if I can prove that true in your life and in your story, then when you're in the tension, you'll have this feeling of gratitude and satisfaction that'll rise up, not the bitterness and resentment of failure that pushes you down. And that's what we want to foster, that emotional experience.
You know, I saw this beautiful post. There's a gentleman that's come across my feed a couple times in the last couple of weeks, either Australian, New Zealand, there's some kind of accent I can't make out, but women, his daughters and his wife, he describes them as the ocean. Some days they're rough, some days they're calm, some moments they're rough, some moments they're calm. And we are the seawall. We have to be able to take a tsunami level impact or just a calm sea and just let it bounce off of us. That does not come naturally.
No.
And it does not come easily. But when you mentioned handle the tensions of life, that was the example that came to me.
Yeah.
It was like, no matter what batters that wall, it's going to take a whole hell of a lot. And what's crazy about the analogy he used, and I'm probably not doing it justice, is the wall is immovable. Like it's absorbing that and it's just doing its job.
Yep.
And we are the seawall. And we're just doing our job. So when a young person or person in my life now asks me, what's the secret to a successful marriage? The first thing I tend to tell them is no one's gonna come pat you on the back and say, great job, bro. I was waiting for my wife to tell me, great job, bro.
Right.
Way to light me up, way to provide security. It's just our fucking job.
That's it.
But I didn't have a man to teach me that. No one's coming to fucking thank you. And that is the importance of the tribe. And that is the importance of having men around you. Men in the sense that you've got not one, but 2, 3, 4 seawalls. And you know what? There's a couple of seawalls there that are gonna have cracks and dents and imperfections. Come on, we'll back you up. And it has been immensely powerful. And I wanna take the time now to switch. We're gonna bring Nicci in. And the reason being is because we've got you at that transition point, that inflection point where your marriage goes from troubled to smoother, calmer waters. So we're gonna welcome Nicci Hamilton to the show now. So now we're back and we've got Nicci Hamilton here. Should I say Mrs. Nicci Hamilton?
Yeah.
Come on.
And I wanted to bring you in. I didn't know you were coming today, but as I shared with you off camera, as I was researching Jake, I got to see one clip. And he also shared you didn't grow up with a dad. And the thing that really hit me hard was my wife grew up with a dad, but it wasn't the best example. And the question was, what's the one thing, what was the question? You remember?
If you could take away one pain from my life, what would it be?
And what was the answer?
And it was,
So I asked Jake that.
yeah, so she asked me that, and I just said,
He said, I wish you had a dad.
I just wish you had a dad.
And that you felt
Didn't
safe.
feel so unsafe all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
And that stuck with me. So we just never know how things are gonna work out. Because you popped in and you were like, well, what am I gonna have to offer this conversation? And I said, you have no idea.
Yeah, I would have worn better makeup had I known.
Let her know she was great. Hey, Jake, you better be lighting her up with compliments.
Yes.
Nobody is more obsessed with this woman than me on planet Earth.
Yeah,
Nobody
that's true.
tells her how
That's
beautiful
true.
she is. More often, every 5 seconds, I am obsessed with this woman.
That's true.
Okay.
Like, yeah.
My wife is like, just get away from me sometimes. It's like, being a creep. I was like, would you rather me be a creep with you out in the world?
Hey.
So, yeah, it is an amazing feeling to feel that way. And you were very honest, you didn't always feel that way. And you had this awakening, you had this rebirth, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I know it didn't happen overnight. What does that look like for a couple that was married up to that point?
Yeah.
How many
About
years?
8, we were just shy of our 8th year anniversary.
And things are not going well. You finally changed.
Well, I would.
You know, it'd be great if life were actually a movie, and you have,
Wouldn't it?
wouldn't
Nice,
it?
nice segmented
like, we'll
parts
just
and
edit that part
wrap
out.
it all out.
Yeah, it's so nice.
Right, and you have some profound conversation, and everything from that moment changes. But that's not real life, right? Real life is you take 2 steps forward and then you take 1 step back, and sometimes 3 steps. And and eventually you make progress. So I think it was much more of an experience. We continue to have an experience like that. I mean, there are defining and marking moments, which that absolutely was a defining moment. But it wasn't a moment that took away all of my pain and made him a different person and changed who I was, and we rode off into the sunset, right?
It took work,
Yeah.
and it took support, and you leaned on the church.
Well, we actually, one of the things that our mentor, he was a pastor, and he said, so what couples do you look up to? Like, just give me a couple you look up to. And we realized, oh shit, there's not one. There's not a couple
We
we
said,
looked at.
is there anyone who has a marriage around you that you want to emulate or that you admire?
Someone you can draw from.
Yeah.
And we thought, God, I don't think we have one.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, we have people we love, people that have aspects, but we're like, wow, there isn't like a solid, this is what we're looking for. And I always said, like, you know, if you're looking around for something that you can't find, you probably have to become it. And so that's the way I felt. I was like, well, we're backed into a corner here. And I don't have any, like, who do I call?
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? The few people I call don't have many answers for me.
And then you start, maybe, no, they're not good.
No, and I try, and I end up. And,
start racking your brain like, oh, no.
Well,
and then you realize you have that moment. So that is a defining moment for the relationship.
Absolutely.
It's like, holy shit, we don't have anybody to model.
That's right.
So we're just winging it. how many people wing a relationship? I didn't realize I was doing it, and we don't really have any good information to like carry into
That's right.
the relationship. So you've made the commitment. Your beliefs are starting to shift around what your marriage could be. Now, what does that work look like?
What did that look like?
I think it started with questions, right? So it started with us, really we went home from that experience and realized that we didn't know each other that well. You know, we spent, we dated for 18 months maybe before we got married, and then you have kids really fast. And so I think that can happen in a lot of marriages where you're 7 years and a few kids down the road and you go like, I actually don't know who you are. And I particularly don't know who you were before me. Because now when I look at you, my definition of you is kind of plastered with my experiences that I've had with you, which is then masked over my experiences that I've had with for me, every other man. Right. And I think for men, it would be every other woman.
Right? You're comparing. You're comparing.
Yeah.
Well, and also those pains and those wounds are kind of, I can now take that hurt that I had from Guy 3 years ago and go, ooh, you kind of look like him a little bit, and put that mask on your face, right? So now you're 7 years into your marriage and you're going, I'm actually partially dealing with the hurts and the pains I have from you. But even more than that, I'm dealing with the hurts and the pains I have from a dad who wasn't there, and from men who came in and out of my life, and through past boyfriends. But I don't know that consciously.
That's the hard part, is most people don't know they're even doing that work when they're doing it. We don't marry, we marry all of our triggers on purpose. We do. And most people think that we're supposed to marry the person who makes us feel most comfortable. You don't. Even if you want to, you won't. You will marry the version of love you received, or the version of love you think you can still fix. So when we marry that, when we marry into that relationship, we don't realize what we're trying to overcome. Because all of a sudden, she's coming at me, or I'm coming at her, or I will be very honest. There's still times where she says something, she's very powerful, very strong. I'm upset. I'm not hearing her voice, if I'm being honest. I'm hearing my mom. Right. And I'm going, oh, wow, okay, that moved me in a different way. Now I have a conversation as if it's her, but at the end of the day, I go, oh, this is...
The wound is so much deeper, right? Because this is a wound from a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 6-year-old. Right. So it's not just this, oh, you said that in a tone that is resonating in a pain for me. It's like, oh, that's a tone I've heard over and over, and it means so much, and you have no idea. Yep. And now I'm holding you accountable for that pain.
Right. How did you get to the place of realization? Because that's deep. It's layers deep. And you had to peel back some layers to get there. Was it therapy? Was it the church? What was it?
Well, okay, so it starts with questions, right?
But were you asking yourself these questions?
We were asking each other questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think we spent a lot of time, and there's like a whole story, everything kind of progresses, and you go read a book and you hear a podcast and someone says something, and you kind of accumulate all these things, and that's our experience.
Yeah, there was about a few-year journey of sort of learning how to ask curious questions to the person you love to uncover the deepest truth of who they are.
And who they were prior to you. So as we asked simple questions like, tell me what a day was like for you when you were in 3rd grade. What was a day like for you in 3rd grade?
A question that I'd be, have to rack my brain to get an answer for.
Right, but here's an easier question. What was your favorite cereal when you were growing up? Did you have one?
Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Who bought you Cinnamon Toast Crunch?
My mom.
Yeah, and so what was it like having a bowl of Cinnamon Toast Crunch in the morning at your house?
Amazing.
Right, why?
Because it was full of sugar and fun.
You're now telling me.
Right, and my whole demeanor changes.
That's exactly right.
You're back in the moment.
That's right.
Are you fucking playing tricks on me?
That's absolutely we are. That's exactly what we're doing. Because what happens is in a lot of these situations, people default to the deeper question, not realizing that the surface level question will always reveal the deeper truth. But we don't ever take the time to just go tell me more about you. Tell me more about what you liked and didn't like, and how did that play out? And then all of a sudden you're asking what else was happening in your house while you were eating Cinnamon Toast Crunch? Who else is in the room? What was the room like? Right. Well, now we're at these deeper levels of stories and questions that we never got. I mean, nobody ever taught us how to do that.
Right.
So we kind of fumbled into it.
Was it the love that inspired the desire? Was there a conversation? Because the conversations my wife and I have are, listen, like, we gotta raise the standard. If we raise the standard in ourselves individually, then we'll raise the standard for the relationship and in turn for the children.
And you can tell me how you experienced this, because the story essentially became, when we came home, I laid on the floor for like 7 days. I like she didn't kick me out of the bed or anything, but I couldn't eat or sleep. I was a mess. Because I was like, what? I know that I have to own this shit. I have to, like, with men in our stuff, we always say, like, own your shit, take responsibility for your life. That's the nuts and bolts of life in general. It may not be your fault, but it is your responsibility. So you didn't ask for half the shit you got, but the truth is you have to take responsibility for it because it's your life now. And if you don't, whatever victimized you in your childhood is going to continue to victimize you into your future, and you'll use it to victimize others.
And that is your fault.
That is your fault now. Now it goes from being your fault to your responsibility back to your fault if you choose not to take responsibility. But the point is that I'm laying there on the ground going, I don't know what to do. And I'll be honest, I just opened up I felt like God just said 1 Corinthians 13. So that's the chapter on love that a lot of people know. It's the love chapter. And the love chapter starts like this. Like, it just says, love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it's not self-seeking. It's a list of 16 attributes. And it says, love always trusts, always hopes. And it ends with, love never fails. And I know the verse, I know the passage, I've read it a billion times. I understand, I've heard messages on it, I heard songs on it, I know it. And I'm sitting there and I open it up and it says, love is patient. And the actual word there isn't patience. That's a nice translation. The actual word there is long suffering. And I really felt like God in that moment told me, if you don't get that one, you can't have the rest. And you know what my wife asked me for all the time for years? Just be kind. Be nice. Because I'm like so intense. So everything's intense and frustrating and anxious ridden and stress ridden. I'm doing too many things. And I laid on the floor, and not only did I hear that verse for like the first time, like, if you can't be patient, you don't get the rest. Because why? Can you be kind in a hurry? No. So patience is absolutely it. Does not envy? Well, of course, I'm looking at other people's lives going, why don't I have what they have? Well, now now I can't have that one either. It does not boast. It doesn't tell her how good I'm doing. Don't you see how great I am in all these areas? Well, look at it. It just goes down the list. But if I don't have patience, I don't get the rest to operate well in. And so what happened was all the stories of how I had hurt her connected to those truths. That's what got me. Because there's no version of this as a man I can call her to a higher standard if I'm not calling myself to one first. And that's where the standard came from. As I was like, from now on. And it switched when she came to me and she's like, are we going to talk about the elephant in the room? Because I was acting pretty bummed out, Right. I'm acting pretty
doing
bummed.
your laundry or something.
I started doing my laundry or something.
It's like, whoa!
Yeah, she's like, what the hell's wrong with you, you idiot?
Now, Nicci, seeing him get emotional, I got emotional. How does that make you feel as his woman, as his lady, as his wife, as his missus?
Yeah, we always joke that we have like the, I'm the man. I carry the masculine emotions and he carries the feminine, So he's like always, he's so sweet and kind to me, and that has been so healing to my heart and who I am as a woman. It's been really a beautiful experience to hear. I've been married 24 years, but this is what I will tell you. I've been married 24 years.
She's definitely the masculine energy because she didn't remember.
No, I know. I'm always like, what's our anniversary?
Yeah, how long have we been married again? I'm like, God.
Yeah. But but here's the thing, that comes from a deep place of wounding in my own life, right? This is what the funny thing is, as you begin to do this work and as you begin to explore story and learn how to ask curious questions, all of a sudden you realize when you're talking to people, oh my God, everyone's telling on themselves, right? It's like, oh, you have no idea. You are, because people think they walk around like so buttoned up, like you ain't gonna see my trauma because I got it all buttoned up. You aren't gonna find out how messy I am. But the minute you begin to do this work and you begin to understand story, you go, oh my God, you have no idea how much you're telling on yourself right now.
Like doing coaching for me is one of my favorite things on the planet. It's like, I love doing coaching for this reason. I love it because you can tell me you don't know all day long, but everything about you is stored in you. It's not out here. I don't have answers for your life. I have nothing to offer you except a mirror for you to finally see who you really are, without all the filters, without all the masks, without all the imposters. And when we start to ask questions, people will say phrases. I keep a little note, I keep a little journal when I'm doing work with people, and I write down just very specific things that they say. And then I'll just ask it, what did you mean when you said that? And they'll go, every time, how'd you pick that one phrase out? And it's like, because that's where you told on yourself.
It's the tip of the iceberg.
That's it.
And you know how to spot it.
That's the story.
Now, you can do that in coaching because that's what you're being paid to do. How does that dynamic show up in your marriage? Can you be the mirror for each other and bypass the initial knee-jerk reaction of that trigger?
That takes a lot of work, right? Like it takes a lot of work and a lot of safety. It's like anybody, you give a little kid a gun and with no training, someone's getting real hurt and possibly dying. And so you give someone a little bit of information about how to read a person and you can do a lot of damage. As a matter of fact, I think I've done a lot of damage in my younger years before I knew, because I'm an intuitive person and I've always been able to kind of go like, I know how to poke on that. And before I had, some maturity, I'd poke on wounds in people, and then it would be like, oh my God, why is this person so mad, So you have to be careful, particularly if you're that type of person, right? Who can kind of see.
It can be used as a weapon.
It can absolutely be used as a weapon.
And used with the wrong person, not the wrong person, they're just not in the right space to receive your message at the time.
Right.
So it's received in an insulting way or.
Right. Well, that's why for me, this is why we're so good together,
right?
And why we work with.
I see it. I look at the two of you, and I got to tell you, I see so much of my marriage and so much of the story because I see real love. I see the strife. I see the fact that you've been lost and you found because you wanted to.
Yeah.
And that was really the commitment. You said it. The man has to want it. Because if I didn't want it, we wouldn't be here today.
That's right.
It's the bottom line.
That's exactly.
Even though 50% or no, I think more in America, the women initiate the marriage. I think it's a direct result of what you said.
That's exactly
the man's
right.
heart just wasn't in it.
That's exactly right.
That woman hadn't won his heart over, or whatever. Maybe it was men are not. They're complicit. Everybody's complicit in this.
Absolutely. I mean, if we're because I love the Bible, and there's a verse that says in Ephesians says, "Wives, submit to your husbands."
Right.
Okay, great, cool. The very next verse is like, "Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her." Okay, that's a huge call. And so what I do usually when I'm speaking to like Christian groups, I'll tell them, I'll go, okay, so wives, how many of you are ready to submit to your husbands? Yeah, and every woman's like, that's the dumbest phrase ever. You're just an idiot. They kind of look at me like, there's always like the old ladies that are like, I do. And what I do is then I go, okay, how many of you ladies in this same room, you love Jesus, you're willing to submit your whole lives to him and surrender everything to him? And they're like, yay. I was like, oh, you just gave me the problem in your marriage. Because your man doesn't look safe enough like the image of Christ for you to surrender to him. And if he did, you'd have no problem with it.
Let's take it a step further. Your man doesn't have the track record of consistency required to get the same praise and faith.
That's exactly right.
Jesus Christ has been given.
That's right. And so for me, I'm like, it's not the problem isn't that a wife doesn't want to submit to a husband or doesn't want to be in a relationship where she feels safe and secure and led. It just means we don't have a lot of men who are leading that way with safety and security and stability, not control and manipulation. Because real men don't have to control and manipulate to lead. They're willing to take the hits along the road to continue to become the man they were meant to be so that their wife becomes the woman she was meant to be.
What are some of the things that our audience, the men in our audience, can do to kind of rewrite the story or at least start to unveil the true selves, to lift the mask, to drop the mask, to start to identify what it is, and also, more importantly, take responsibility for the role they play.
Yeah, I would say you can't do it alone. I mean, I don't know how you would do that by yourself, if I'm being honest. So I think what we try to train men into is teaching them how to ask the right questions about themselves and to others so that we can begin to understand the story we're living in and the story we're telling ourselves that's different than the story we actually experienced. Because a lot of us I say my job is primarily to ruthlessly eliminate ruthlessly destroy fantasy anywhere in a person's life it still exists. Because if you're living in fantasy, you're always going to reproduce fantasy. Right. But if you live in reality, you'll always produce reality. You will produce hope. You'll produce power and strength and endurance, but you have to live in reality. Because fantasy will lead to comfort, which is just a false version of peace, which is really what men want. And so what I think is the number one thing is we have to find tribes of men, groups of men who can, even if they don't know the tools, just at least get together and go, listen, we're just going to talk. We're just going to share our shit. That's it. Day one. We're just going to get together. And we're going to, hey, here's our stuff. We're just going to talk about it. And not for the sake of accountability or making somebody feel good, but for at least having someone in the room to be able to bounce it off of. Now, next level is getting some mentorship, some coaching, some men that are going to actually help you do the processing work of how is your story still defining your relationships, your job, what you're pursuing, what you're going after. That's massive. That's really a big deal because, I mean, this whole thing is about real mentors, right? Like you need mentors. Like there's not a version of this where you're just going to wake up one day and go, you know what? I really am living with a lot of imposters and masks, and I have a lot of shadow work to do. I think I'm just going to do that today. You know what I mean? Like I'm just going to, I'm going to look in the mirror and we're going to get this done.
We're going to figure this shit out today.
Yeah,
I don't know what the last 25 years.
I bought a book and I listened to the podcast. I got this on lock.
Sadly, our younger generation believes that. They believe that everything is a quick fix.
There's no quick fix to this. There is, and the fact is, we tell people all the time. We talk about a pathway to purpose. And the idea is this pathway to purpose is actually a spiral that continues to go. Where you're like, because there's no arrival. There's no day you're going to wake up and go, dude, come to find out, I've made it. I'm a perfect dad. I'm a perfect husband. I'm a perfect man. I'm a perfect CEO. I'm a perfect fill in the blank. There's no version of this where you show up and you're like, and I've arrived. Yes, you're going to grow and get better, but there's no arrival in this.
Right.
You are going to be doing this work for the remainder of your days on life. And when you do, you will go to your grave being fully spent. I mean, fully spent. Everything you had to learn from your story, no, you didn't learn it and figure it out. You were able to give it away so others never had to endure it. Because whatever we do not transform will be transferred. So whatever we don't redeem in our story will be repeated by our children.
Repeat it until we get it right.
Well, we won't. Here's the suckier part. You will pass it to your children and we'll watch it.
Way to make me feel bad.
It makes every man feel bad.
Yeah, well, it puts it in perspective because it's like you love them so much, but we don't love ourselves enough sometimes.
That's it.
And then we've also been so wrapped up in that story that, we might love ourselves, but we don't realize, even myself, who's very wise in some ways, realized that I was layered in useless stories that have become real because they have been reinforced so many times.
That's right.
So taking it back, Nicci, what's some of the advice you may give the married ladies in the audience who may be listening to this and may not feel seen or heard? What's some of the advice you could give them and what helped you get through?
Well, I think what I learned coming from the home of a single mom was being a single mom sucks. And it's not an empowering journey of freedom. I didn't see my mom and think, oh, wow, she worked full time and mowed the lawn and paid the bills and, did both the man and the woman's job. And I never looked at that and thought, wow, she's the picture of feminism, of what it is to be a woman and woman empowerment. I saw my mom dying, having to fulfill both of those roles. So I never looked at that as a glamorous role to take, which it pains me because I do feel like it's glamorized a lot in media and culture.
Yeah,
that there's
this women's empowerment,
right?
But it's skewed. it's skewed in terms of the dynamic of the relationship.
Right, and
so
the women...
maybe we focus on the office component or the earning your own money component. And you can probably do both, but you will be chipping away at that femininity to some extent.
Yeah, and chipping away at the health of your life, you know, like in your children's. And also coming from a broken home and having the experience of my mom dating and bringing in other husbands and bringing in other men and realizing what it feels like to live in a home with a man who's not your father. I knew that nobody was going to love my children the way their own father did. And so the option of not making this work felt so, I wasn't gonna do it. I wasn't gonna do it to my kids, and it didn't feel glamorous to do it to myself. So I think I kind of felt like, okay, well, he says, you know, and I really meant it, like, okay, fine, I'll stay at home, I'll raise these kids, you go run the world and do whatever you want. I'm just gonna be here, I'm not gonna leave you, I'll sit here and do it. And it did take him coming to the table with, no, I want more than a business relationship, I want a marriage, and let's work from that. But I think at a very basic level, my staying with it was, again, I'm a practical person, right?
Stick-withedness.
Yes, I'm a practical person.
And I was going to get to that. What was the inspiration for your stick-withedness? Was it the fear of your children now growing up with a single mom? That you said,
absolutely.
You know what, fuck it, go out, run the world. I'll be right here. I'm happy, but strong, tall, and surviving, and I'll raise our kids.
Well, like, to go back to what I was saying, we tell on ourselves, right, without knowing, which is, again, why I think doing the work that happens in the fight is profound, even if you don't want to do it for yourself to improve your own life, but even as a business leader, even as someone who works with people, to be able to identify what someone's saying behind what they're saying is very powerful and important, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I was telling on myself to tell you, like, oh, I'm actually way more masculine in my approach to things. You know, that sounds like, oh, I'm just stating a fact. No, I'm actually telling you I'm deeply wounded because I was raised without a father. And so because I've never been able to fully drop into my own feminine voice, I have to present myself in a very masculine way. That's not because I'm so strong and I've got it so put together. It's because I have a lot of brokenness inside of me still, right? So that's me telling on myself.
And that's you doing the thing that has worked for you in the past.
And it has worked for me, right? It has
It's worked, so why break it? I mean,
Yeah.
even with the entrepreneurial struggles, right? If you muscled and hustled your way to your first million or first 6 figures, whatever it is,
Well,
that's
this
what you're going to continue to do once you learn a different way and you
Here's the
commit to
thing.
it.
This is what I have discovered about trauma and pain in my own life. It works until it doesn't. And so, like, when I talk to someone about their childhood trauma and they have, like, a lot of times there's guilt around, like, oh man, like maybe for me it would be like, oh God, I just feel like I'm so strong and I walk in like a bull in a china shop all over the place. And now I look back and that caused pain, it caused brokenness, it hurt things in my life and I paid a price for that. And now there's a little bit of shame that I'm this bull in the china shop. And I say, no, like, what a beautiful thing that as a young person you knew how to protect yourself. That was beautiful and it was good and we bless that. But now I'm in a safe marriage and I don't need to be in a bull in a china shop anymore. And if I'm still using that tool, if I'm still using that mode of being when I wasn't safe, now when I'm safe, I'm causing problems for him. I'm causing problems for me, for my friends, and now it's a problem. Now that's a tool I don't need to use anymore. So now I need to learn how to set that down and develop a new way of being now that I'm safe.
And a new set of tools
Right.
and how you show up. I think what you just said is so powerful because there's so much disconnect between the importance of family. There's so many single moms. There's so many baby daddies and baby mamas where I come from. And it's so fucking normalized to not be married, to not actually work on the relationship that we are not seeing it for what it is, which another wasted generation or another generation that is working out of a fucking hole that they're probably not going to get out of because they have no one to stand on. They're literally in quicksand on the shoulders of a single mother who's just trying to survive and keep it together. Yeah. And the weight is not always going to be steady, but on the shoulders of a man and a woman, or a woman and a woman, and a man, as we've always discussed, a 2-parent home, for me, always works better.
When I talked to, I'll never forget it. I was in some shop in Denver and buying a jacket, and this woman, asked the lady who runs the shop, and she was asking me what I do, and I told her a little bit about the fight. And we work with men and marriages, and that's what we do, And she's like, "Oh, I have a son. What would you tell me as a single mom?" And it was, she was just trying to be really sweet and authentic, and it was like, just don't try to be your dad. Just don't try to be his dad. Because if he thinks that you're going to fulfill both roles, he loses both of them. Just let him know he's lost only one, and just be a mom, and let him go through the pain of not having a dad, and let him just be angry at it and sad, and just be a container for his pain instead of trying to be both. Because then he'll grow up and never have to realize he didn't have a dad and try to honor you for being both. He can just simply say, it was so painful to not have a father, and my mom let me know that.
Wow.
And she's crying, of course, and can I give him your number? And then we try to exchange a little bit. But I think that we have to be aware of what we don't have if we're ever going to honor the tools that were helpful in one season, to recognize when they become hurtful in another, and really honor them and let them go. It doesn't mean, like Nicci said, we don't put them down. Like, I was a bull in a china shop, and whatever the list is for you, whatever mask it is, we don't dishonor it and go, well, that was awful. I'm so bad. I'm so sad I was that. Right. No. That was really beautiful. You had that to protect you, but we can let that go now.
Right. You're safe. And I think safety, security, certainty for every human being, but in particular for women.
Well, but it comes from the same root for man and women: identity. I ask every person who starts our program the exact same question.
Yeah.
Who are you?
Holy cow.
And then I just stare at them.
And wait for the response.
Yeah.
And the ums and the hums and the ahs and the humminess. And after that, it must be like, I'm sure you're used to it.
Yeah. But it's real
amazing
awkward
that you can ask somebody who they are.
Yeah.
And they have no idea.
Yeah, they'll give you what they do, what they have, and what others think
what
of them.
their kids and their wife.
Yeah, they'll tell me all this stuff.
Who are you? What are you about?
Okay, keep going. And I'll just look at them and ask the same question. Who are you? Like, cool. Who are you? And we make it I've done it for up to, a good amount of time, because I'm trying to let it sink in that if you don't have this, it's irrelevant where everything else goes.
Yeah. That is one of the secrets to life we don't hear enough about. And it's been repeated 3 times today in the previous podcast. And then also I was using a story of someone else who does acting classes, and the most successful actors that he trains are the ones that know who they are.
Yeah.
And the same thing with the most successful social media brands and the people we had on earlier. Yeah. The people that are most successful are authentic and know who they are.
That's right.
So I hate to say that we're running up on time, because I could do this all freaking day with the two of you. And I just want to say thank you. This wasn't just for the audience today. This was for me, and your light shone through. So I honor you both for coming and sitting down with us. Tell our audience where they can find more about the fight, more about Jake Hamilton, and don't be so modest, Miss Nicci Hamilton, because you have a lot, if not tons of value to offer, not just the ladies, but the men.
Yeah.
And can I tell you the most powerful thing that I heard you talk about today, as the child of a single mom, and putting up that masculine facade, was something that people of color and people in poverty do all day long. Women of color are some of the most disenfranchised people on earth. And add to that poverty, add to that systematic, inefficiencies in how we live our lives, oppression, systematic, all the other things we could rail on. But again, all of that is for nothing if you don't take responsibility and start to say, how can I be better? How can I get out of this feeling? So again, a long-winded thank you, but a thank you nonetheless.
Really
you guys are freaking
it.
Amazing. And it wasn't meant for me to even see you when we were in Atlanta, because I was there with the family, and my 3-year-old and 8-year-old were getting restless. And when you guys came on after us, we had stepped out, and everybody was like, oh man, it was fucking awesome, and you missed it. And I go, it wasn't meant to be. I think I said to you, because we hadn't even really conversed, because I was on and you were on right after. And it wasn't meant for me to be there with you two. It was meant for me to get to know you both right here, right now, in the South Bronx,
That's
of all places.
of all places. That's where it needed to happen, of course.
So I think we did this 5 minutes ago, but go ahead and tell the audience more where they can find you.
You can
and
find
support
us.
you.
All my social stuff is just the Jake Hamilton. So you're gonna real easy to find the Jake Hamilton. But if you're at all interested in the work we're doing, you can head to thisisthefight.com and you can check it out there. All of our platform, we call it the arena, where men can come and gather. We have tribe, we have courses, we have every Monday night we get together for Man Talk Monday. Come and hang out with us for any of it, all of it, none of it. We just want to make sure that men and marriages get the help they need to live the life they were created to live so that they can really fight for identity, family, and legacy.
Amen to that. Nicci, would you like to add anything before we say goodbye to the audience?
No, it was a surprising pleasure to be here. I had no idea I'd be here. So.
And she was worried about the makeup, as we heard.
Oh my God!
I think when we get to see the footage, you're going to be glowing. And it's mostly because of the conversation and the subject matter and the energy that is here right now. So thank you always for tuning into the Real Mentors podcast. Make sure to follow and subscribe to not only our podcast, but anything that Jake's got going on, The Fight, Nicci as well. They have so much to teach, such great energy, such great people, and it was an absolute honor. As always, let's get it.